Live from Atlanta, Georgia, it's the Zach Ballinger Show, where we help you find your direction through purpose and passion. My name is Zach Ballinger. I am your host. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. We do have a special guest. We are streaming via YouTube. If you have any questions, feel free to pop those into the comments. We'll make sure to get to them at the end of the show. As well, you guys always can email me questions, zach@zachballinger.com. We'll make sure to ask them of our guests. Steve, thank you so much for joining the show today.
Good morning. Thank you for having me on.
So I just want to jump right in here. So what's your exact title? What do you do career-wise?
I am a partner at a law firm, and I am a patent attorney, which means I'm the type of patent attorney that writes patents for other people. So my focus is on early stage startups. I work with Silicon Valley type companies that need to get a patent portfolio established. And so what I do most of the time is I write patents for them. I advise on what to do. The joy of working with early stage startups is I also get to do a lot of other things like fundraising and pitching for money and uh, you know product strategy and things like that.
Awesome. And how many years have you been in this type field?
Well, I better start back at the beginning. um, I went to college. I went to Oberlin College in Ohio, which was a great experience. And when I left there, I was given, I could have gotten a job in mathematics or as chemistry. I was a math and chemistry major. And I chose grad school because it seemed most interesting. And I did it in chemistry. I did it in an area of chemistry called analytical chemistry, which is somebody who builds instruments. So if you see somebody who tests, they take your blood to the doctor's office, they take it away, they send it to a lab. I was the person who designed and built the instruments that would do the blood tests and finding out new tests, like to detect a virus or something like that, or detect contaminations in paint or bad food. That's the type of things that I did. And I did that for a number of years. I did graduate school at Indiana University. And then I went and worked for a scientific instrument company, and I was effectively the chief technology officer. And that was a great experience because I got to design new products all the time. It was a small enough company where I was going to trade shows a lot. I love sales, believe it or not. I love going out there and pitching a product and grabbing somebody and selling something to them. And I did that for most of the 90s. That was my primary purpose. But along the way, I had done a bunch of patents. And my family and I had moved out to the Silicon Valley area. And I was telecommuting back to New Jersey, which was in those days a lot different than it is now. And we had there was a law firm here that was hiring, and I was wanting to do more patents, and they were expensive, so I couldn't afford to do them. And when I was 40, or 39, I switched over from being, a product manager, engineer, scientist to a patent attorney. And a nice thing about patent attorneys is if you have a technical degree, whether it's in engineering or biology or computer science, you can actually become what's called a patent agent. And that means you're not a full attorney. You don't practice wills and trusts or divorces or car accidents, but you can practice in front of the patent office and help people with their patent applications. So while working for this law firm, I first became a patent agent, and then at nighttime I went to school, which was a crazy few years. Full-time work and going to law school at the same time. And I became a patent attorney. And that was about 2004. It took about 4 years to finish school. And now I get to do all kinds of law. It's an awful lot of fun.
Wow. So let's talk about that for a minute. So, you said about 40, you decided to change kind of your direction in your career. Mm-hmm. Did that come with a little bit of anxiety or fear since you had done something so long? Because I talked to a lot of professionals that have been in a career 20 or 30 years, and they're like, Zach, I just don't know about changing. How did you do it?
It was easier because I'd started with a job. I mean, I could write pretty well. And so a law firm in 2000, they were hiring anybody who could write because there was such a demand. It was, the .com boom and all this kind of stuff. And so I had a job, a full-time job that paid better than an engineering job. And so it was nice. It was fun to go to school. Santa Clara has a part-time program, and the average age then was 32 in their evening program. So it gives you about 10% of the students had either MDs or PhDs. So it was a very different than what you would get in a normal law school class because everybody had a lot of uh, um, experiences in life, and that made it really enjoyable. So it was if you'd told me when I was in college that I was going to end up going to law school, I would have like, oh, no way. But it was actually a lot more fun than I expected. There was some really intelligent professors, and they pushed you to your limits, and they were very good at working with each student to get them just to the point where they're pushing on your bubble. So that was great.
Awesome. Now, so you're a patent attorney now, and what does it, I know this changes for everyone, so it's kind of difficult, but what does a typical day look like for you? So you get out of bed in the morning. What does a patent attorney do on a daily basis?
Well, in these days, it's pretty easy because I get out of bed and I hop in the shower and then I take 10 steps and sit in front of my desk. So the firm that I work for, Ramon Law, is normally a semi-virtual law firm. So I would have been working on Zoom and doing things like that anyway. I'm right now based in San Francisco, and I have a lot of clients in this area, but I've only met with a few of them in the last few months personally. I do have a lot of clients. I have clients in Europe and Australia and Asia, and over the years we've always been using Zoom as our main means or Skype as our main means of communication. So what I do is sort of like in the law part is sort of like being a reporter. I interview inventors, engineers, and we have maybe a 2-hour conversation with lots of pages of notes and so on. It's like going to a seminar, right? And then I'm assigned to go write a patent application based on what they told me. So I interview somebody and then I have to write a 30 to 40 page paper. And it's a lot fun because I get to see the technology even before the investors do. I mean, groundbreaking companies. And every day it's something different. I work on Oculus headsets. I work on CRM, AI software. I work on dog collars. I work on semiconductor chips, solar panels. My practice, I do everything but drugs. No pharma, no FDA, no vaccines, stuff like that. But pretty much a lot of medical devices, probably 70% software. Apps are pretty popular. I do lots of apps. I do video networking. I've done that in the past. So the variety of stuff that I get to see is really fun, and that's what keeps the job very interesting. So after I write this paper, then we file a patent application, and over the next few years, it takes a while to turn an application into a patent. There's back and forth with the patent office where I have to write arguments. But when a reporter once asked me what my job was like, and I said it's very much like yours, except I write much longer articles, and I do it about technology, right? And that's a great way to go. The other things that I do is I get to work with startups, which is a lot of fun. I've been a CTO and I've been a CEO of companies, and we have. It's really great to work with two people who are just starting out a company and they're excited about what they're doing, and you get to kind of be the big fish in their little pond. You get to help them talk about fundraising strategy. I work with a lot of the angel groups in Silicon Valley and give them deal flow. Help introducing my clients to people who help them with pitching competitions or pitch decks or business plans. So because of my background, having been there and done all these different things, I do a lot of that with my clients as well.
Fascinating. I got to say, this is really fascinating just talking to you. And your passion kind of exudes through these questions. And we kind of have learned what you love about the job. But on the flip side, what's some of the difficulties that people should know that a patent attorney maybe behind the scenes that it might be kind of challenging?
There's some skills that I would recommend that people get if they're going to be not just for a patent attorney, but for an attorney. I had the fortune of doing a career before law school. And now when I talk to somebody who's considering law school, I, well, during a bad job time right now, law school might actually be a good idea. But I usually recommend to somebody to go get work in an industry they're interested in. It might be entertainment. It might be sports. It could be, there was a classmate of mine in law school who worked uh, in an area called Salinas, which is an area where huge amounts of vegetables are grown for the United States, one of the most productive areas in the country. And every week he'd come in with a case of like asparagus and put it on our desk, right? And this guy, his family had been in the business for years. He was in agriculture, and you knew he was going to be the best ag lawyer out there because he had some field. If you're an attorney, it's really nice to have some background that distinguishes you from everybody else, because there's lots of attorneys out there. But if you have some niche that makes you special, whether it's aviation or railroads, or if you've worked in the fashion industry, you can be an attorney in that industry. And if you've actually been there, you become much a much more valuable attorney. You can give much more useful advice to your clients, and your path, going up the ladder is much faster, because your clients let you. You will get clients, and they will jump towards you. One of the other things about being an attorney is that people don't realize is very often it's a key to making this a business and making money at it is getting clients. So you have to have some talent for promoting yourself in sales, or going to a trade show or a cocktail party and shaking people's hands and getting them to sign up with you, and getting customers. So it's one of those fields. Probably a comparable is a real estate agent. Anybody can take the real estate exam and become a real estate agent, but actually to go out there and make money, the work is not in selling the house, it's getting the clients. And that's true in law. If you're a first year law student, you're going to be working really hard. But if you want to be a partner in a few years, a good part of your time has to be from day one on client development and building a book of business for yourself, because that's how you move up in a law firm.
And when somebody brings you an idea and they want a patent, because I know a lot of for students out there that want to be that are entrepreneurial, and they think
Mm-hmm.
they've got an idea and they want to patent it. Do you give advice to your clients on, hey, there might be something already out there, or this is not
Yeah,
a great idea because of this?
yeah. So patents, if there's not a business around them, are really expensive wallpaper. Yeah, the most expensive. A patent can cost 20, 25, $30,000, to get out all the way out the door. And having a patent doesn't mean that people are going to come knocking on your door and say, "Oh, I see you have a patent. May I please send you money?" It doesn't go that way. The way that for startups, the value in a patent is that it increases the valuation of the company. Every time they raise money from investors, they can point to the patent portfolio and say, "Look, this adds to our value." And when they exit, which is usually by being sold to somebody big like Facebook or Apple or Amazon, when they exit, the patent portfolio makes a huge difference in the value that they get for the company, because now you have a big player who is really interested in patents. And so for my typical clientele, the reason that they need to do patents is because of the valuation. It helps the valuation of the company. Enforcing a patent is a multi-million dollar project. So I have one litigation. Most of what I do is what's called patent prosecution, where I actually write patents and get them allowed. I have one litigation case right now, and it's been going on for 4 years now. The budget is probably around $3 million. So it is an expensive project that takes many years. If it doesn't settle, it'll probably be one more year before it's done. That gives you an idea. So the idea that if there's an inventor who has a really great idea for a new cup holder or wheelchair or mattress cover, uh, it's a hard business to do the patent and then license it out. There is an organization that I've worked with in the past that a number of my clients have worked in. who are actually professional inventors. They do it for a living, and they have enough reputation. Some of them have gone to, the Stanford School of Design, and they design products and then patent them. And it's an organization called Invent Right. It's based in the Midwest now, and you can find it on LinkedIn. And they are really a group of inventors that have gotten together, or licensed. They're more licensing people than inventors. So they talk about how to get in front of QVC and the nightmare of having a giant container dumped on your driveway and your neighbors complaining, and what it takes to actually sell products. And some of the people that have come out of that group, you might know the num lock, the letter word lock, the dial lock that has letters on it, and you have to, the combination is some word. That's a product that you might have seen on TV that's coming out of that group. It's hard to do. The ideas are a dime a dozen. The hard part is actually selling it and putting a business around it. If I have somebody coming to me that says, I have an invention and I just want to get a patent, I explain to them that it's expensive wallpaper and they can do that, and I'll do it for them. But in order to really make money, they have to have a business around it, because that's much more valuable.
That makes sense, and I'm glad you touched on that. So let's say you're Samantha and you live in New York, and you've just thought of this great new invention, and you've got an idea, and you've taken it to somebody's actually developed a concept or a prototype.
Mm-hmm.
You would recommend that person to would you recommend them to start seeing a seed investor or an angel investor, or would you go to an attorney right away, or a big company? How would you do it?
So I would recommend talking with a patent attorney and getting a little bit of advice. We're talking about a few hours of attorney time, not a $20,000 project. Get a few hours of advice from an attorney and get a provisional patent application done, which is inexpensive because the client can do a lot of the work. It's a very informal write-up. It gives them a stake in the ground. It lets them say something's patent pending, and it gives them a little bit of protection. And then the next step is to go out there and sell and try to see if the thing has legs, where you can get any traction. And file your provisional, and the next day tell everybody in the world about your idea and see if you can get somebody to buy into it. If it's a consumer product, look at distributors in that area, identify if they want to pick up a product like this. You'll learn to find manufacturers. Can you get it made in China or in Alabama or in Florida or wherever? And what are the cost structures? How cheaply can you make it? All of a sudden, your concern goes more from, I have a great idea, to, boy, I've got to keep my margin more than 10 cents. I've got to make this cheap, and marketing costs and budgeting and labor and all these things. And it's possible to do that type of company and business. And again, Invent Right, the founders of that are people who actually have done this over many years and done quite a bit of interesting products. So it's the one organization that they don't advertise. Anything that I see advertising on TV, all the money is going to advertising. It's not going to be the thing you should go to. But yeah, it can be a lot of fun, and people can be successful at it. They're great ideas, but it's a lot of work business. And after the provisional application only lasts a year, right? And then you have to turn it into a full patent application. And if you haven't sold your product within a year, then you move on to something else. That's my advice. It gives you a good 1-year limit. And there's also a difference between Silicon Valley, where I am, and businesses with a different outlook. In Silicon Valley, the goal is to be, in 3 to 5 years, have a real high-end exit, be a unicorn, and be the one that really hit and make all your investors lots of money, and be done with it in 5 years. In normal brains, I'm going to say normal places, but in normal brains, you can start a company with an idea and intend to grow it for 30 years on your own and pass it down to your kids. That is a totally different business model. In that case, your funding sources are different. You grow more organically. You don't take millions of dollars in investment just to grow your customer base and to grow very quickly. You grow methodically and with um, you know, a much more conservative outlook. In those, for companies like that, if there is a stage, well, eventually they may want patents. Of course, they definitely probably want trademarks, but there is a big difference between the Silicon Valley startup company, how they approach things, and what a normal business might do. So, and I do have some clients in that space. I have a client who is a fashion designer who won at Fashion Week, right? And she's not going to take VC investment, but she's trying to grow a business slowly over time. And, you know, do I have a mask here? No, I'm trying to see if I have one of her products on my table. No, it's not within reach, unfortunately.
We've had several questions come in, so I kind of want to jump over to these. I think a lot of people are very interested in this. So, what's the difference between a trademark and a patent? Somebody asked.
Yeah, so really different. A trademark might be your logo, the Zach with a little arrow. That's something that you use to identify your goods and services. It's a product or a service identifier. And you should be putting a little TM next to it. And that means that you're using it as a trademark. Just by doing that, you get some initial common law rights because you were the first, maybe the first to use it in this field, right? Um, and so that's with the use of a trademark. And so a trademark might be HP, um, the computer name, or the symbol with the H and the P and the circle around it. That's the mark. A patent is something much more difficult to get, and it's something where you've invented a new thing, and you persuade the patent office in the U.S. and maybe in other countries that it's original and it's not just a quirk of nature or a natural law, and it's not obvious, and you get a patent out of it, and that patent is a legal document that lets you prevent other people from doing or importing that idea or that product. So a patent would let you prevent somebody from importing an infringing product or manufacturing or selling an infringing product in the United States.
Glad I talked to you. I can need to change my logo. I learned that.
Yeah.
So
Now, if you register your trademark with the patent and trademark office, then you get to put a little R with a circle around it, and that's only for registered trademarks.
interesting.
Yeah.
And so the next question that comes in is a Shark Tank question. It says, how hard it is it to get on the Shark Tank? Is that a possible way to get your idea out there?
Well, I've never tried to get on the Shark Tank, but I have pitched personally in front of Shark Tank, in front of Manny, and
Wow.
won a competition. Pitching is fun. I love doing it. There are lots of pitch competitions, and the Shark Tank is probably not. I'm not recommending any of my clients go there. Start off, and there's categories of them. There is ones where anybody can pretty much pitch for $50 or whatever, just the cost of running the thing. And then there's better and better ones. After you do a bunch of open pitch competitions, then you get to meet investors, and those investors could be members of angel groups, right? These are groups that in normal times have a big dinner, and there might be 100 investors in the room, and you might get up and do a 20-minute presentation in front of this entire crowd, right? Now you're talking about people who might put 100,000 in each, and you might raise $500,000 to $1 million, right? And then once you get past that stage, you get enough money to show that you really can sell that your product has legs, that you're getting traction, and you meet some benchmarks. Then you go back out to the investor community and say, look what I've done. I now need my next round of investment. And that's how things work in Silicon Valley, right? That's the Silicon Valley approach. It's not an approach that like my fashion designer is going to use. But you raise enough money to make your next benchmarks. Hopefully you make them and survive. And you do that 3 or 4 times until you're raising money at a $100 million valuation, and you have 400 employees, and you can grow very quickly with that approach. But yeah, the Shark Tank is just a TV show. I mean, so I'm not going to say anything positive or negative about the Shark Tank, but there are lots of pitch opportunities. They're in Silicon Valley here. One of my favorite ones is called Pitch Force. And I probably visit in normal times. I go to it once or twice a month. But they're now doing weekly online things, and you can watch other people pitch. And I know I have great referrals for people who are pitch coaches. I have people who talk about the language you use and what phrasing and words you might use. I have people who are experts on what investors want to see, right? I have a one woman from LA who's an actress who can do the same pitch, back to back with completely different persona, and it completely changes the pitch. I mean, it would be a fun thing. That would be a good example of somebody who you could have on your show, because she's a great person to interview, and has lots of. It can be really dynamic. So pitching is fun.
Awesome. Thanks for the answer. And then the next question comes in. It says, I have an idea for a phone application. How would I go about getting a patent for that?
So it's very common. I do lots of mobile apps as applications. And it depends on your background. If you're a financial person, you probably want to build a technical team, right? If you have experience running a business, you want to get a technical person and a finance or marketing person. It takes to have a successful startup. Just being one guy or one gal is really hard. You really do need to have multiple talents, and investors will look for that. So building a team is probably the first thing I would look at. You want to do look at the competition, do Google searches on patents, and see what else is out there. Certainly attending. There's an organization called in Silicon Valley called Idea to IPO that has regular, I think at least once a month now, meetings for people who want to start companies. Being in the Silicon Valley ecosystem now with COVID, because we have Zoom, it's really convenient. You can come and visit here and attend all these things that would normally be difficult to attend. But yeah, Idea to IPO is a good example of something where people get regular lectures on corporate law issues, IP issues, raising money, all the different things you might have to do with an app. And I like apps because I have one of my last companies was a company called Hyperkey, which was a iOS keyboard. In the apps I have right now, I have a dating company called Wonder. What's the app name? But it's pretty cool because it lets you date, right? But then it maintains the relationship after you meet somebody. Then it starts making things like, now you're a couple, and it's going to make recommendations for restaurants to go to and activities to go to. So the idea is that you don't just use it to meet somebody. Is once you've met somebody, then you get to go and have the app still is used for you. Someday you'll have like daycare, right? And that's called, I think it's Wonder App. It's pretty cool. But that's the type of startup I work with. Apps are fun. I have one right now called Cloud Site, and I have lots of apps on my phone because of this. Cloud Site's great. I can take on my phone and turn the camera on and point it to things, and it'll describe what is in the image in real time, really fast, doing all that processing on the phone. So, which is really makes it a very fast AI engine, and it's a lot of fun to use and stuff. So those are examples of apps.
Wow, that's amazing. It's such a small world. We're actually interviewing next week somebody who started their own dating app. So I don't even know the name of it, but that's what he does for his living. So maybe the same app. Who knows?
Yeah.
Steve, this has been so helpful to a lot of people out there. I've gotten a lot of great feedback. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I know you're
Sure.
extremely busy with everything you're doing. We appreciate your time, and thank you for giving back and all your knowledge that you shared today.
Great. Zach, has been a great opportunity, and I'm open to any people can send me questions if they want.
Okay, and
Thank you.
I'll link in to make sure that people can connect with you on social media as well.
Yeah,
So
LinkedIn is best. Great. Thanks, Zach.
awesome. Thank